Hi Anjana, hi Praveen. Your voice is breaking a little.
Yeah, I'm just taking this from the road, so it's gonna be.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi. No worries. Hi Ashish. Guys, we still have 7 minutes and y'all are early, so please feel free to chat. No takers. Drishti.
I think Ashish is trying to say something, not really sure.
You guys can also like turn your video on if it's possible. It'd be nice to see some faces. Ashish, you trying to say something? Hey Dhruv, hey Kapil. You guys can take yourself off mute and talk. It's okay. Are all of you artists? Do we have any managers here? Guys, it would be great if one of you could talk. Hey Dhruv. Kapil, you're a label owner. Okay. Hi Praveen. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Hi, Meher. Hope you're doing good.
Hi Dhruv. I'm good. How are you?
All good, all good. Yeah, so I'm an artist. We met at AM, if you remember.
Yes, correct. Yeah, I remember. Do you wanna take your put your video on so we can all see you?
Yeah, just a minute. I need to check my area surrounding.
It's all
Just a
good,
second.
man. We're all used to work from home. Thank you, Drishti. You are a blessed soul. Awesome. Praveen, what do you do?
I'm a manager.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I also consult on IPR issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who are you managing?
I manage independent artists out of Hyderabad.
Okay, from Hyderabad. Very cool. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so we have a manager, a label owner, a musician. Anjana, thank you, Dhruv. Anjana, Rishabh, Ashish, Hassan.
Hi.
don't think you can hear me so well on the road. There'll be a lot of noise.
That's okay. We just wanted to know what you do.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Kind of.
I am a singer, music composer, music producer. I do a bunch of things. I work in the film industry. I work with artists like Aaron and I put together symphony concerts. I'm an opera singer.
Okay, I lost you at the end of that, but I think I got the gist. Okay, awesome. Does anyone else want to tell us what they do while we wait? Rishabh, are you here? Very confused. Jayant. Also, I don't know who iPhone is. Okay, very interactive audience. Hey, Saurabh's here. Hi, Saurabh.
Hi, Meher.
Hi, Jayant. How's it going?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Do you want to tell us what you do, Jayant?
I am an SEO manager at an IT company. Yeah,
Okay.
and I also play music. So I've just been following this channel. I was on another podcast yesterday.
Right.
So I'm excited to hear what's up today.
Amazing. That's exciting. How was the session yesterday?
It was great. It was about the 10 effective qualities about a musician.
Habit, yeah.
I didn't put that exactly in
That's
exact
okay.
words, but yeah, that's what it was. It
Yeah.
was a very experienced person from the heavy metal industry.
Yeah, I saw that.
So it was great.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. If anyone else wants to go ahead and put their videos on, it would be lovely. For context, I really like people. And it would be nice to see some faces. Wow, I feel like a school teacher. Okay. Yeah, but no, honestly, it'd be really nice to like just see you guys if you feel comfortable with it. सौरभ सर आप क्या कर रहे हो यहाँ पे? You're on mute. We can't hear your reasoning. Huh? Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
It's always good to hear knowledge.
that's very sweet. But for those of you who don't know, Saurabh is an incredible, great friend, incredible promoter, a manager from the scene. Definitely also someone you guys should connect with whenever you get the chance. Drishti, you want to give it like what, 5 minutes?
Yeah, we can start at 7:05.
Yeah,
4 minutes from now.
no
Yeah.
problem. Sounds good. If in the middle you guys hear my dog whining, just excuse me.
How it's going for you though? Like you asked us, tell us something about you too. How it's going for you?
It's going very well. We're entering season, so things are a bit crazy. But as we all know, we would rather complain when there's no work than complain when there is work. So it's good. Yeah. it's been an interesting time at the company also. So we've all recovered from the madness of All About Music. That was something else.
Insane. It was insane.
Yeah, I feel like I've spoken to like 10,000 people. But it's been good. Your course is still on?
Sorry?
You were doing the course, na? Law Stories.
Pause.
Course. Weren't you studying with the Law Stories?
Oh,
Academy?
yeah, course. Okay. Yeah, it's ongoing. It's ongoing.
Okay.
Currently, I have my uni exam, and also that's why I'm here. I am in between of my exams.
I'm honored. Exam break is being spent on Masterclass.
Yeah, I mean, just grab knowledge from wherever it's possible, especially you.
Thank you. मक्खन जो लगा रहे हो ना तुम
Nah.
Dhruv is master at makhan. But no, awesome. Ashish, Rishabh, Hassan, we still haven't heard from you guys. So if you wanna,
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I was on the phone. How are you?
no worries. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, what do you do?
So I'm a singer-songwriter. Yeah, I've got like 10 songs out. I worked with a few labels. My first song was with Tips.
Okay.
Yeah. So you are into like any specific genre or something? Like,
Not really. I work for an artist management firm called UnderTheRadar.
okay.
While we have done a lot more on the electronic side so far, we have singer-songwriters on our roster, we have hip-hop artists on our roster. So it's really not restricted. We've also managed visual artists and stand-up comedians and so. I guess I look at the industry a lot more
Holistically.
holistically. There we go. But I think a lot of the principles that we apply to music, like the base level principles, can actually apply to a lot of other fields as well, in my opinion. And I think if you understand like the basics of the art market, while there are differences in how like different markets operate or what those nuances are, the fundamentals of management, of brand building don't really change. And so we like to experiment and we like to see what's working in different zones. And yeah, I feel like that's also how we keep it interesting and fresh after all of these years.
Cool. I would love to connect with you. Like, yeah, maybe it could work out. Like we can do something together or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely. Feel free. Awesome.
Cool.
I'm so glad to finally see your face now. I feel like I'm saying this.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have two more people who have not spoken yet. Hey, Shairi's here. Okay. Hello.
So, anyways, what's the best way to connect with you? Like, you've got some mail ID, or like I should go for LinkedIn, and what do you say?
Email is great.
Email is great. Like,
yeah, email is great.
could you share that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just put it in the chat here.
Yeah.
And you can take it.
Should I start?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Should I start?
Yeah, I think we can start. If anyone else joins in, we can just.
Cool. Hi everyone, I'm pleased to introduce Meher Sachdeva, Head of Artist Management Services at UnderTheRadar, a leading firm based in Mumbai. With over 7 years of experience in managing artists, her expertise spans various aspects of the industry, including talent scouting, career development, branding, and strategic partnerships. Please join me in welcoming Meher for today's masterclass on breaking into international markets. Over to you.
Thank you, Drishti. It's always weird to hear yourself being introduced like that, but okay. Thank you. And thank you guys for joining. I'm glad we got a couple of minutes to just break the ice a little bit, but it's really nice to have everyone here. And hello to the new ones who just joined. I obviously have a deck because I'm a visual person, but I would love 1 second, I'm just going to pull this up for you guys. Good. Can everyone see my screen?
Yup.
Okay, amazing. Before I jump into anything that we're here to discuss, I kind of wanted to hear from you guys as well, and I hope that you will throw some answers at me. I have a screen here that has a bunch of faces that I think we'll all recognize. Do any of you have any? Of course, these are all like faces that are now building an international acclaim and have some recognizability. We're all familiar with our big dogs moment. We get it. But I just wanted to ask you guys, when you look at this and you looked at journeys of different artists in the space, what do you think they have done, or what do you think is common to all of these guys? Any takers? Anyone?
They are like very specific. They are very different and very original take to their music. Or like Anuj Jain is very different from Hanuman Kind, and Lifafa is very different from Ritviz. Like they're all doing music, maybe the same emotion, but they interpret it in very original and very specific. They are very and they have put out good content with good, good music, good lyrics, good video, everything. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Does anyone else want to add anything?
Yeah, so I feel in all of them, it's like they all are doing music, obviously great music, but it's all about they have their own story which they have to tell. It's not just about music, but it's something what they want to represent as themselves. It's more like this is our story, this is what I want to show people as, this is what I want people to interpret myself as. So they all have their own different story, which makes them unique. And obviously they all have different style, but still they all are very well accepted in the international market too, because
Okay.
they have their own different stories. So yeah, it's
Okay.
about what
Absolutely.
you want to share, your opinion, your thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apart from what Dhruv mentioned, all of them have kind of broken out from the normal indie scene. Like for example, Dosanjh was part of the Punjabi music scene for a very long time, which a
Yeah.
lot of people may not know.
Yeah.
Similarly, Peter Cat Recording Company started from Delhi, and they've been around for almost 14 to 15 years. It's
Mhm.
only now that in the last 2, 3 years, people start to realize that, my God, they've been doing so long. Same for Hanuman Kind. He's been there for, I
Yeah.
think, the last 9 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's one thing. And then all of them have broken out from the scene and have been able to capture attentions in global markets. Except I would say Anup Jain and the guy below, I forgot his name. It is Hum To Ud Gaye, that guy.
Ritviz.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Does anyone else have anything to add, or should I move on? Okay, I think we'll move ahead. Thank you guys for that. Just hold on to those thoughts for a minute, because I think they're all important points. And I'm glad we have that understanding right from the get-go. But here's sort of the trajectory I want to take you guys through, right? Or in order for us to understand where we want to be internationally, or for us to understand why these guys have been able to do something in that space, I think it's also important to set context. So we'll go a little bit into what the ecosystem is actually even looking like. Why is India so important right now globally? And then dive a little bit into what a brand looks like you guys mentioned, all of the guys that we're talking about have a certain like brand identity, have a certain story, so we're going to get a little bit into that, and then we're going to get into my favorite part of this, which is home ground testing. Okay, I'm going to take you through all of this. Just familiarize yourself with the flow, but let's start. Obviously, as you know, the big dogs moment, Hanuman Kind, all of that is a huge cultural moment for all of us, but it's not the start of India becoming prominent in the market. These are a couple of things that I found really, really interesting. But Spotify, as you guys may know, opened operations 5 years ago in India. Since then, they've claimed that there's been a 2000% increase in the music coming out of India globally. Right? That means there's been a 2000% increase in the listenership for Indian music. of which actually, like, across the board, and this is not restricted to Indian music, but across the board, the number of people actually listening to English music has fallen, right? Which I think is also interesting because, at least as managers and as artists, I feel like the question that keeps coming up from a lot of people is, do I need to cater a certain kind of sound in order to be globally recognized? Do I need to be able to have a certain language appeal, a certain language popularity? And I feel like this point here really answers that question for me. And of course, we can see that with like Diljit, any of the other artists that were on that like roster. In fact, interestingly enough, Anyasa on the techno side is somebody who started as a niche soothe with English and actually gained massive global appeal as Anyasa, which is more of a classically vocal sound. So it answers a lot of your questions about receptiveness to other languages. And lastly, just for fun, I feel like this was really fun for me because I would not have guessed this, is actually that like the countries where Indian music is actually the most popular are Turkey, Brazil, Italy, Canada, Indonesia, and the UAE. Which I feel like when we're all like talking marketing, touring, this, that, we want to target certain countries because they have social appeal. But the facts actually show us that there are markets closer to us that have more receptiveness. So I think that that's something that all of us can do a deep dive into as we start building our careers out a little bit. So given this and given where we are globally and as a country, how do you go about building a market for yourself internationally? And I think the first thing that you really need to ask yourself or ask anyone is, who are you? This is where a lot of the questions that you guys were talking about really add up, right? When you're setting out on this journey of like being an artist, or if you're a manager and you're working with someone, or if you're a label and you're A&R, who is the person standing in front of you, right? Who do they want to be? How do they want to be remembered? What is their USP? What are their goals? What is the sound that you're doing? Why are you any different? Like, what are you offering the world? And what are your principles? What are your non-negotiables? I feel like these are all questions that like are important to understand early on, so that everything you build around yourself is concrete. Your yes and no's are easy. You know who you want to work with, what you want to do, because you understand yourself. The way that as a side note, but the way that I often describe like artist management is essentially that you're a brand manager, but your product is not a static thing that I can put on a shelf. Your product is a person. The features change, their moods change, their ideas and thoughts change, their perceptions change. But if I know the non-negotiables, like the core of what my product is, it is easier for my artists to speak for themselves. It is easier for me to sell them. It is easier for everybody across the board. So I think that is something that obviously comes first. Now that you know who you are, it's obviously important to craft a narrative and a story around yourself. Like you guys said, that means a couple of different things, right? Musical consistency is one. Of course, you have to be good at what you do, but this is a debatable point in terms of what consistency means. If it means just putting out music that you think is consistently good or consistently similar. I can give you examples of both, and they have both done well. But in any essence, you have to be able to come at it year on year and deliver to your audiences that you're building, right? Like what who was it? Was that Abhishek? A Hanuman kind has also been around 9 years delivering, and then this moment has gone and happened for him. So I feel like that's important. If we're sticking with the artist management brand perspective, then visual identity. Who are you? How are you putting yourself out there? Sometimes having consistency in your brand colors and actually being able to build a solid brand for yourself, like an Olivia Rodrigue has made purple her color. I feel like it's something so small and so subtle, but it's been done so well by her and her team that it's been a very consistent part of who she is. And it may not help your listenership the same way, but it helps build an equation with the people because they're picking up on these touch points of you and of your story. And the last, obviously, in a world like ours, is authenticity. um I feel like people today can call bullshit a lot faster. And so everything you've asked yourself and ask yourself the tough questions, if you can put that out there in the right way, your audiences follow. And lastly, we have find your people. I honestly think that none of this is stuff that anyone can do alone for a very long period of time. You will always have people that you collaborate with, that you fall upon. I mean, Dhruv was talking about all about music recently, and I feel like a lot of the people I met as well underestimate the power of what your network can do for you, both as as supporters, as people who are putting your music into the limelight, but also as people to just work with. Right, when you're starting out, telling your story, doing all of this is not easy. And I feel like if you find the right people to support yourself early on, it's just that much easier. Um, for okay, never mind. I don't think we'll have time. Okay, now that you've done this and you kind of know who you are, which is also a questionable thing in today's world, home ground testing, my favorite. I think, okay, can I ask you guys a question first?
Yeah.
Of the musicians here, of the managers, of whatever, how many of you have thought about your ultimate dream being to play a stadium, the O2, or like doing a large scale show, wherever? Like, can you just raise your hands, whatever? Okay. Out of, just for my curiosity, how early on in your career was this a driving ambition or a driving force?
Right from the beginning only.
From the beginning, like, yeah, first year of
Yeah,
when I was figuring
similar.
it out.
Okay.
I think that was the initial dream, I think, going in to be playing stadiums and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. But I think what happens early on is that obviously like these dreams are very, very important and they're driving us to like a big part of why we do what we do. But I think in those dreams, sometimes we pay more attention to the large scale and less attention to the smaller, closer thing, right? And so when I say your journey starts at base, how much do you know about your audience here? And I feel like now we have more tools and we kind of get into it. But let's say, okay, Abhishek, can you tell me a little bit about what your audience looks like?
Yeah, so I, as a musician, operate in the genre of English grunge and alternative rock.
Okay.
My core audience is basically people from the age of 16, 17 to about 35
Okay.
can come for my live gigs, say Depot 48 or Piano Man Jazz in New Delhi.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
And they will be people who are either in college or young working professionals.
Okay.
Because those who are married with kids who are slightly older, they may not have time to come for my gigs.
Yeah.
That is my target audience, and I'm also targeting all those people who primarily listen to English rock music. Because a lot of people, when I say rock, they say, "Oh, Atif Aslam." That is not rock. Sorry. So, focus people who understand rock music, who listen to classic rock bands.
Yeah.
They're the ones that can convert to listen to my original music. It won't be the audience of, say, hip hop or EDM initially, because that's a little different target audience.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, but I think firstly, like all of us can see that you've done a little bit of your homework, and that's great. But I feel like some of those points I may not agree with. Just as a side note, right? Like yes, your conversion across genres may be harder. But for example, I don't see why an older audience won't come, because English rock is actually better known in older generations than ours. right? I would know maybe like 10 people in my immediate friend circle who will listen to English rock, but I can find you 60 in my parents, right? And time is also a variable, man. Like some people have the time, some people don't. I wouldn't close myself to an older audience necessarily. But I see what you're trying to do. And I feel like that's a good example of the initial point of trying to basically identify and double down on your audience. I think that also means, for me at least, a great example of this was Lifafa, right? Like when Lifafa started, and I'm not even saying PCRC, right? I'm saying Lifafa. One of the greatest things I've ever seen from a live market perspective was Lifafa played 3 shows back to back in Delhi at the same venue, all sold out. Right? Normally, as managers, as whatever, we will always be like, okay, let's have a gap in our in what city we're playing and how we're playing it, what venue we're doing, because we don't want to saturate our markets, right? When you find your people and your audience, whether it's cult or mass, I feel like the shifts that you're able to create with that audience, the connect you're able to have, that is a beautiful thing. And what we were talking about earlier with your people, of saying those are the guys whose word of mouth means more, right? So I feel like despite digital, and there's a lot of people on this call from the industry as well, but I feel like from a digital perspective, while you're able to do that and you're able to reach more people, I am less likely to click on an ad than I am and follow through to a song than I am to say, if Abhishek is my friend, I will, and he tells me to listen to a song, I'll listen to it.
I agree with you, 100%. Fair point.
Was someone else also saying something? I heard some. Okay, cool. Yeah. I feel like that is one thing that if you can figure out your unique way of connecting with people on a deeper level, spending more time on cultivating like your audience. I don't know how many of you are aware of like the Fred Again case study, but the way that he engages with his audience is something that I have never seen, right? Like he's able to I'm forgetting what show it was, but I remember that like for one of his shows, he comped tickets for everybody and played almost like a private show for his for early on, like when he was starting out. Those guys will never forget that experience. They'll never forget what they've offered him, and that connection is so special. Even now, if he just pops up somewhere, you're like, yeah, okay, that is a very deep level of engagement with an artist. And I think if you're able to do that in an interesting way, in your way, that audience connect is a lot more meaningful than just numbers on a screen, right? Now, once you found them, I think a big thing to do before you think of going international is to test your live market. An international promoter, especially given the fact that they come from a lot more like established structures, will want to know what proof you have also of being credible. They care about, I mean, if you look at an offer coming in, if you look at whatever, like they do look at what your ability to pull is as an artist, not just based on numbers, right? But have you sold tickets? Again, I'm taking Abhishek's example because I feel like now I know him the best here. But if you say like a Depot 48, a Piano Man, whatever, I think these are also great venues to test and sell. A great example of this for me personally is I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the Mimi tour we did with Ritviz in 2022. But I don't know how many of you are aware of this either, but we self-produced that entire tour. There's a lot of pros and cons, and that in itself is a separate 1 hour discussion. But I feel like the thing that it gave me was a lot of insight into my market, into the people who are coming out, the people who are buying tickets, how many people were buying tickets, what I was able to charge for him, and essentially like a breakdown of the market that he was creating for himself. I feel like no matter what level you are at in your career, a great way to test your story, sellability, all of that is to keep putting yourself in situations where you're not just demanding a fee, but you're testing what the market is willing to do for you. and flip the game a little bit. Lastly, I think when you're doing all of this, I'm a big believer in experiences. As an artist, whether it's sonically, it's element based, it's how you're creating, I think adding a touch of yourself to the experience you're offering will only help you develop this further. Because if we're taking building an international market as our ultimate goal, it comes down to the idea of, again, what is unique for you. So like whether that means spending a little bit more time in production and elements, looking at what is it that you want to offer people that is different. I feel like that changes a lot of things for us, and for a lot of promoters we've spoken to globally as well. Now you've tested yourself. We come back to my least favorite aspect of this, which is numbers. As much as I want to deny it and say just being a performer is enough, I can't. And obviously, we live in a competitive age with creators, with a lot of people who are doing a lot of things. And I feel like understanding the tools that are available to you will only help you build a broader presence, right? Your straightforward things are obviously your DSPs, social media, press, which we've listed here. If any of you have any questions around that, I'm happy to take those also later. But I feel like one of the more interesting things that I've discovered, and the reason I have a picture of this Chai Met Toast newsletter here, and I don't know how many of you listen to Chai Met Toast or have ever seen this newsletter before in your lives. Yeah, okay. But I think the personalization of it is not lost on me. They've not just created a newsletter, but it's cute that like every week it's a different band member who writes it or potentially writes it. I think as an active audience member, I appreciate the effort taken. I also appreciate the investment that they're putting in and trying to connect with their people, and that doubles down on the brand that they're building for themselves. So I'm leaving aside the traditional channels because I'm assuming that from what I've gathered of the room, y'all are very familiar with what goes into building a presence on streaming, on social media. You know that content is a big part of it. But I wanted to really touch upon this and talk a little bit about the fact that I feel like as artists, definitely we're going into an era where tangible, personalized touch points are nicer because we're also strained digitally. So that's definitely one thing that I would encourage all of you to like think about. We've touched upon this a little bit, but now once you've built your brand and you've got a sense of who you want to be, where you want to go, all the big questions, I feel like doing this deep dive before you hit a market is super essential, right? If my top listeners are in the US and I'm calling up an Australia promoter, but I have like 6 people who listen to my music in Australia, for them that means nothing, right? So I think understanding your core markets, and I feel like people do this at every level, right? It's not about a young artist or an experienced artist or whatever. Different artists have different demographics, different core markets, different places where they want to double down on their audiences. And I feel like really spending time with this data, which is now thankfully very easily available to all of us, is only going to help you prepare better for the conversations you're going to have. As an artist or a manager or a thing, you want to be able to make a case for yourself, right? And knowing these statistics and going in there prepared is that this is your argument, that you may think I am from XYZ and I don't, maybe you don't think I have an audience here, but here's what it looks like. If I can't sell 10,000 tickets, I know I can sell 1,000 based on what my demographic is, right? So really spending time with this data, I think, is super helpful. And then I'm coming back a little bit to finding your partners. I think the core of also breaking an international market today is also identifying the people that you can and want to work with. It is an easier world today to collaborate, to find people across borders. And I think the more emphasis you place on not being afraid of reaching out, it is a beautiful feeling when somebody finally replies to a cold email. It's amazing. Just try it. Send out 100, you'll get 2 responses, and you'll be like, oh my God, I have won at life. But I think reach out to everybody that you think, but make a informed decision about who you're reaching out to. And I cannot stress this enough. The same thing that applies to your demographics applies to finding partners. If I am a singer-songwriter and I'm reaching out to somebody who is not my vibe and not my genre, the likelihood of this collaboration going through, unless you're trying to do something experimental, is low, because already the way that the markets are perceived is different. So I feel like really identifying why you're reaching out to someone and what you're reaching out to them for, like having a clear ask, is important. So if you make like a target list for yourself and say, let's say I have 10 demos, I think these are people who would fit really well on it, right? And I send it across to them, knowing that like, this is why I'm reaching out to you. It makes your job a lot easier and they will respect you more for it. Of course, you can also reach out to managers and creators in this process. Managers, I think, is a simpler channel of communication sometimes. Creators, because I think building an audience base for yourself now will also depend on distribution a little bit, and identifying the right creators who operate in your space can be helpful. On the outreach front, I don't know if any of you came down for this, but I think there are a couple of like conferences also that have been bringing down festival agents from different countries. And I think focusing on a similar pitch for yourself of identifying the right sound, the right festivals, the right spaces that you want to operate in. If you can build that target list for yourself, then I think it's never too early to start reaching out to places that offer that space and network. Labels and agents, same thing. I think once you've built a brand and you've gotten a little bit of recognition within the market, it's all about identifying the right person for yourself. So a great example of this for me, and I'm giving personal examples because those I think are the ones that I know best, but like what we were able to do with Ananyasa is that, right? Anjana Deep was the right label for his sound. We spoke to a lot of people. We spoke to a lot of like different sorts of, not just labels, but we spoke to a lot of people here to try and see who would be the right person for him to work with. But making that decision really came down to saying, this is the sound that I want to be identified with. This is the label, whatever they offer. This is the label that I want, that will bring me closer to the target audience I want. And so that clarity of thought, I think, is something that requires a lot of research, but is very fruitful in the end. And lastly, I think when you're doing all of this, spend a little time just on hygiene and upskilling. From personal experience, like I said, the way that markets operate in the West are a lot more structured. Here, I can call someone and say, let's do something in abstraction, and it may work. I feel like in the West, their process is understanding of agreements, understanding of copyright, understanding of different like terminology is very, very important. And they will take you more seriously when you have that understanding as well. Ask questions, that's completely okay. Even if you think that you're like not seeming smart enough or well-versed enough, whatever, it's better to know and get clarity on what you're getting into. But definitely, I think it's important for all of us to like spend a little bit more time understanding the nature of these deals that we're looking to enter before just reaching out to someone and saying, I just want to do something with you. That's not a great approach there, in my opinion. And I feel like people take you a lot more seriously when you just come in there with clarity. And so these are a few things I think you should spend time understanding before you reach out to anyone. If you know people in the industry or you're friends with someone else, ask for a copy of their contract. You may be like, maybe they're not willing to share it as easily, maybe it's redacted, whatever. But ask if you can see what a international performance contract looks like. Ask somebody what a PNL should look like, what kind of expenses you're going to incur, what kind of copyright agreements and structures they enter into over there. Copyright law varies country to country, so it's a little bit more technical. But if you have a lawyer friend, take the advice, ask someone, send them your agreement. Don't sign anything that you don't understand just for the idea of being in an international space. That I cannot stress this enough. But if you can get your hands on these resources, I don't know if I can, but if I find something, I'll try and send it across. But yeah, I think these are the core things that I really wanted to like stress upon today. I know it's a little bit more abstract and a little bit more surface, but if you guys have any questions, I am more than happy to take them. Abhishek.
Yeah. So I had a very specific question regarding what artist managers are looking for when they're signing an artist. Like, if I were to point that question in your case, so there's this grunge band in the Delhi scene who I know. I wouldn't like to name it right now, but the thing with them is that their music is very good, but their Spotify listener count is on the lower side. It's not like, thousands, it's in the few hundreds. But if you
Sure.
listen to the artist, if you listen to the music, it's actually very good. And they've done shows in, say, in the local region,
Sure.
like in 48 or, in fandom. But the problem with them is that they aren't getting signed with major festivals within India. Stuff like, say, NH7 or Hornbill or, Zero for them, as an example.
Yeah.
So if uh, on one hand we say that the Spotify numbers are very important, YouTube numbers are very important.
Yeah.
The numbers are low, but the music is good. So in that situation, how much of a risk are you willing to take on an artist in a case like this, who's good live, and if you listen to their music is actually pretty good,
Yeah.
they don't have the numbers to back it up.
I feel like there are a lot of layers to your questions. Whether it's the state of how programming happens or it's how managers sign, there's multiple aspects to that question. But I think from where you're coming and from the aspect of how managers sign, I can tell you for us, the way that I look at it is I want to sign somebody who I can get behind as a sound. For me, honestly, and I know it sounds like fluff, because I've had this conversation many times and I've heard it being said to other people as well. And I get it. It sounds very abstract in that sense because there's really no core like metric. But I look for a performer whose sound I can get behind and whose performance I can get behind. For me, the core is that if I enjoy it, I will sell it like crazy. I will go out there and I will be like, dude, you don't understand how good these people are. You have to see it because I'm convinced, right? I honestly think that you can look at our roster. Our roster is tiny. It's like 4 people. And we've intentionally always kept it at like 4 or 5 people at a given time for 2 reasons. One was always bandwidth of saying, whoever I wanted to sign, I need the time and the effort to be and the mind space to be able to service them well. Now I've signed them within that framework. It can only be people that I will sell nonstop, right? I think we encourage this a lot for like younger people also with us who are signing their own artists for the first time, of saying, dude, you have to it is not about like finding a big roster or saying, I just want to show you that there's something, or saying I will cater to 10 different genres, but of which I only actually like 3. As an independent person, I'm saying, right? I feel like if you are signing someone, it has to be in a genre that you understand and makes sense to you. If you can do that, you won half the game. When it comes to festivals, and from that aspect, I think there is a little bit of leeway that you also have to give to festivals for understanding that, like, one, genres come into prominence at different times. So for a festival, you're looking at a very broad, if you look at the sheer volume of music that's coming out in our country today, for a festival promoter, you have to understand they are being overwhelmed by how many things they can look, and their slots are finite, right? it is your argument of 9 years, 10 years. It is a thing of saying sometimes it'll work at stage one. I find somebody, they're great, they happen to be in the right place, right time, it gets picked up by a festival. But I think more often than not, festivals also look for proof of concept. What are they like as performers? It's not, I don't think it's just listenership. And I've worked at OML, so I know how Weekender was programmed at some point, right? And I think as promoters, as much as we like give a lot of shit, and I'm saying all managers also, right? Because you're obviously vying for your artist to get a spot. There is a moment that you have to understand that there's a balance between like a younger artist who needs a platform and an artist that's actually going to sell and make this business profitable, contrary to as much as we'd like for this industry to work differently. That's the truth of it being a business. So I think on that front, it's also about staying in the game a little longer. Most of the people who've done it have not done it overnight. They've waited years for those slots of like saying, I will come to that point. So I think it's a bit of a mix. But as managers, just find, even as an artist, I think you should just find, that should be your first question. What kind of music do you listen to?
Right.
When you're looking for a manager, right? I feel like if they don't understand the genre that you're operating in, if I don't listen to rock, I can do it, but it'll be harder for me, in my personal opinion.
Right. That answers my question very well. Thank you for that. I just wanted to ask for Under the Radar, in terms of musical genres, what are you guys comfortable, taking up? Just want to understand that.
Again, I don't think we are bound by genre. Our roster is very random in the best way possible. Anyone, I mean, you can check it out later, but like for us, it does come down to that. I cannot just like say this in any other way. If you meet Rahul, who's the founder of Under the Radar, one day you will realize that nobody works more on intuition than him. And that intuition is very heavily driven by what he thinks he can offer back to you, which comes from a space of understanding, of saying interest, vibe. Do I like you as a person? Do you like me as a person? Will we make a good team, essentially? So there's a lot of factors, but they're not really genre driven. They're more interest, energy, the alignment of goals driven. They're more driven by those factors than genre.
Right.
Okay, awesome. Anyone else has any questions?
Hi, Meher. I had a question, but this might be a little like personal. Like I don't know if it goes with this, but I am an artist who's based in Pune, and I started out doing a lot of live shows, and then I started working on my independent project, and then put out some of my songs, and that was also the pandemic and stuff. And after the pandemic, I took a lot of time to actually work on my project and find my sound and learn to produce, basically, because I wanted to have that much of a hand in making my music. And I'm at a point where I'm like, I'm going to release my project and I'm really excited about that. But there is this big question about, is it important? Because I'm seeing a lot of this thing about a lot of the artists who are independent artists or singer-songwriters like me, moving to Bombay or making that kind of a shift, and then finding, and like the industry is so much more vast there. And I came for All About Music this time. In fact, I wanted to catch you, but I couldn't because it was coinciding with so many other, things were just.
Got me now. It's fine.
Yeah, it was all over the place. But what I realized was that what we experience being in different cities of India is so different from the actual industry that is in Bombay, and how big it is and how vast it is. So I wanted to know how much of a part that plays in your success as a musician in India.
That's a great question. Honestly, I think someone said this to me a long time ago and it kind of stuck with me. Bombay is a great place to network. Wherever you are is a great place to create. I think I've seen a lot of people over the years kind of also have to drown out, especially as a creative, drown out how overwhelming Bombay can also be as a city in order to be able to do what they really want to do as musicians or creatives.
True.
So I think the stage of your life really matters to that question. I moved to Bombay when I was 21. it was madness.
Yeah.
And it is till date, I can do more work in a week in Bombay than I can do here. But Bombay is not a city that's made for everyone.
Yeah.
If you're gonna ask me objectively, I spent in 2019, I went around and I interviewed a bunch of people from across industries because we were working on another project. And I asked them this question
Yeah.
because I really wanted to say, I wanted the answer to be no.
Yeah.
Personally, I wanted them to say, because for the cause that I was trying to build, I was like, please say no, you don't have to be in Bombay.
Yeah.
Because that means that more people have a shot.
Yeah.
I feel like most answers were the answer that I am now giving you, about the timing that you want to move, what it is that you're trying to achieve from the city.
Yeah.
Is it your kind of city?
Hmm.
People also, for every success story you have of moving to Bombay and finding something, you will also have the story of somebody moving to Bombay and burning out.
Yeah.
Have the story of them going and telling you that it is so lonely and so isolating, and it feels like a wave of people that you're trying to like build a mark in front of, and it's a tough city to live in. Objectively, I would answer that by saying, one, make sure you have enough resources to move to Bombay.
True, true, true.
Especially as a creative, do not eliminate the idea of money or like thing based on a dream, and make sure that you are actually setting yourself up for success and not failure. So resources is definitely one. Two, if you're at a point where you're still like starting to build a brand and you're starting to put your music out, I don't think you need to move to Bombay immediately.
Yeah.
I think there is a point in your career where you will hit a glass ceiling.
Yeah.
And you will know that moment. You will know that like, I've done everything I could have from here. Nahi ho raha.
Yeah.
Now I'll move.
True. Okay.
Right. And I feel like that for me is a better way of looking at it than saying I have to exist in Bombay. Because it
Yeah.
is true that resources are more easily accessible. You can create anywhere, you can do digital collaborations. There's so many factors that will not stop you from becoming what a musician or an artist from where you are at right now.
Yeah.
When you hit the glass ceiling of saying, I cannot do it from here anymore, then move.
True.
Because then you'll know what it is that you're looking for from Bombay. You said you're in Pune?
Yeah, I'm in Pune. It's close
Bro,
enough.
the highway is gonna become 2 hours. I'm serious. But then make like defined goals of why you're going to Bombay. Let's say you're going and spending 1 week in Bombay. Set up every meeting in the world that you can set up and make sure that
Yeah.
when you come back home to Pune, that week has been the most like productive week of your life. I still do that. I live in Delhi.
Okay.
I go to Bombay twice, whatever, once a month if I can. And I set up 1 week that I'm going to be in Bombay, and I go and I meet everyone.
Hmm.
And it's not impossible. You'll have a lot of FOMO. Your life will look very different. You'll be like, okay, but XYZ is doing it faster, better, whatever. But maybe that's the reality of their trajectory.
Yeah.
What you can do from here, let's do that first.
True.
And then just put yourself in a good position to move when you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Thanks a lot.
Nice. Yes, Mr. Dhruv.
Hey, Meher, I have. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, you may.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So, let's say if there's a new band that's just starting out, and I know you did speak about copyrights and a few things that a person needs to do to
Yeah.
To have it, at least from a documentation perspective,
Yeah.
to go out and reach international markets.
Mhm.
Do you know maybe at the top of your mind, who are some of these agencies whom bands can contact to help them with the documentation process, or at least to just get started from a legal way, where I can go and approach someone or some agency to get to tour in another country,
Okay. So agencies to tour in another country, I think you should look at it from two perspectives again. There are agencies based in each of these different countries. So for example, this is at scale I'm talking, but off the top of my head, for example, in the US, you have like a Wasserman. They're big. They're probably one of the biggest like agencies in the country right now. They represent a lot of the best talent. But I'm giving you an example of a more localized agency, right? Like a Wasserman has great control over the US and the UK markets. They may not be my favorite person to reach out to in Australia. They may not be my favorite person to reach out to in Africa. I don't know. But I think some of that research and deep dive into who is a good booking agent in these different markets that you want to target is some effort that you will also have to put into to identify them. However, if you're looking at it the other way around, I feel like a good way to do it is also to reach out to like different managers, promoters, agencies here and see who they work with. So if you look at a lot of the tour posters also that come out, anything we've done, Big Bad Wolf, Represent, whatever, all of them have worked with certain agencies, promoters across the globe. And I feel like identifying them is a easier way of going about this if you don't want to do the deep dive also, because what this does is there is proof and there is credibility to what those agencies are also capable of and what they have executed. But I would say if you look at each of those markets and then see what they played, that's a great starting point. Does that answer your question a little bit? Because I feel like
yes, it does. And from a documentation perspective, you need to have a list of documents you as a band that you should have, right? Before you go ahead and start a tour. So would is there any, I mean, would you suggest looking at companies or agencies similar
Are
to
you
the ones we
talking
just
about
spoke
like
about?
travel documentation? Are you talking?
Travel documentation. Because I think that's very important, especially if you want to go travel, or tour, or even think of, going to some other country. Because obviously visas are a big issue these days, and artists get rejected. I mean, if one person in a band can't make it, the whole band's gone. So very difficult for the promoters to also answer the fans. So from that perspective, if you could probably suggest a new band, what they should have from a documentation
I
perspective,
don't think
on a basic level.
from personal opinion, I think if you're working with someone, like unless you're doing a self-produced tour, which in the beginning I would not advise also. But if you have partners in each of these countries, often they will guide you on the frameworks that you need. So for example, I think a great example of this is we did a show in Singapore right now. Singapore, for example, has the ability for residents to invite people through an app where your visa gets approved in like 3 hours if they actually want to approve it, right? So because each country has different like rules and regulations, I think one of the core things you should do, and this is where credibility also comes into question, is once you've identified these promoters and these like touring agents, booking agents, they will have a template for visas, recommendation letters, invitation letters. More often than not, the reason it's better to do it with someone who's locally based is because they have access to that infrastructure. They can invite you, they can take responsibility for you, they can sponsor you, whatever. And it is a lot easier to get a visa that way than to get it directly through yourself. The other way is a lot of I know in the US, for example, you need like an immigration lawyer sometimes to help you with that process. But again, that list is very vast to share on this. But I feel like identifying a legal expert who can help you will also be a good route if you're going by yourself. So for example, I think there's one firm in Bombay that is a legal firm, but they do know their way about travel guidelines, all of that. So that's definitely one thing you could look at. Otherwise, I would firmly advise to rely on your partners a little bit on that front, because there's a lot of people who are also fraudulent on the visa front.
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, Meher, I had a question. Recently, a PR team from the UK reached out to me about wanting to put my music out there on a global scale.
Okay.
So it's really nice, it's flattering, but at the same time it's like, how can there is a big difference in like the conversion rates and things like that. And also I'm just starting out, so I'm self-financing my debut EP and everything.
Yeah.
So those questions come in where I know that getting some kind of a global audience obviously is something we look at as artists, but at this, when is a right time to do something like that? And also yeah, like, should I be focusing more on developing my local my Indian audience, or also at the same time be, trying to develop my global thing? How would you say I go about it?
Um, I haven't heard your music, so um, I don't know what we're working with, and I'm happy to like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to send it over afterwards, I'm also happy to like listen to that and tell you what I think. But I think for me at least, they're not exclusive activities.
Hmm.
Just because you're based here, maybe your music has more global appeal and people abroad are picking it up faster than they're picking up here, which has also happened,
Hmm.
right? It's not always necessary that the Indian market has the same receptiveness to you just because you're from here, right?
Yeah.
So I think definitely like don't look at them as completely exclusive. Um, I would deep dive into the PR exercise a little bit more to understand what exactly they think they're offering. Because a lot
Hmm.
of these things are not all. See, I met someone the other day who paid for followers, for example, and
Hmm.
their account is shadow banned and to a like a really bad level where they're struggling now to grow any further, right?
Hmm.
A lot of these emails and a lot of these things that come in, one, check the reliability, check who's reached out to you, have a conversation with them, maybe set up a call.
I
Um,
did, I did.
you did? Okay.
Yeah, I spoke to them, and yeah, so what they were offering is basically like, putting it up on like Spotify, like trying to do Spotify ads and stuff, and targeting out there, and those kind of things. So also like SEO work, and a lot of those other things. So that's what I
How much are
just
they
had to call. Sorry.
out of out of curiosity, how much are they charging for this?
So I did put up this question where I was like, this is obviously like the conversion rate and all those things get involved. So they said that they would tailor it according to what is possible for me, because they were like, we work with a lot of independent artists, so we can, figure this thing out or whatever, like based on, and also based on what you want, and we could club some things and give you like a discounted thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Personally, I am not a fan of relying heavily on advertising at the
yeah,
start of your career. I think it's not, no matter how much I tailor SEO, and this is a very personal opinion, like everyone in the industry will have a different way of doing it. Personally, for me, I feel like if you're trying to actually build that like organic fan base,
yeah.
it's not all coming from ads. And
Mm,
ads is not something like, especially in today's demographic, in today's ecosystem where like Instagram has made it easy, Spotify has made it easy. I don't think you need an agency to run that ad for you.
yeah,
Would instead, if I had the money, I would invest in the right kind of like content I was creating for
yeah.
it.
True, true, true.
If I had like 30,000 bucks and
Visual.
I would spend it very differently. I would not necessarily pay a PR agency in a different country right now,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
right? I would maybe I would maybe run an ad campaign for myself in a different market just to see what the conversion is. But I would be very careful of the activity that's going from my account because you're newer to the market, and I feel like people shun ads more than they accept them in today's age.
Very true. Yeah.
So I think maybe instead of that, spending more time on and resources on attending more events, making more of a network, building more content, putting yourself in the right places, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you were at All About Music. There were promoters from the West, there were agents, there were managers. I would much rather pay 12,000 bucks for a ticket to that
Hmm.
than an agency that I cannot even keep tabs on the same way.
Yeah.
For me, I would be a little skeptical of it.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think invest your resources differently at the moment.
Yeah.
There are other ways of like tapping into those markets. You don't have to double down on like agencies at the moment, in my opinion.
True. Yeah. I don't think I would have considered it unless like they would have like reached out and actually set up a call and done the work, you know.
Yeah, I would also look at like what that investment is. If it's like $5,000 and they're offering you a testing round, it's an experiment.
Yeah.
The key of all of this is I know that there isn't like one right way to do it, right?
Yeah.
If you want to experiment with it and it's not a huge investment, sure. But then in that case, be really, really careful about the deliverables you're asking for, the legitimacy of the company. Really, maybe spend a little bit more time with the case study and see, like, okay, who have they actually worked with? See if they've
Yeah.
worked with any other Indian artists.
Hmm.
Have they actually been able to deliver the reach that they're promising? It was very easy to say, I'll get you like 50,000 people more to listen to your music, but can I actually do that?
Yeah.
You know, so uh, maybe spend a little bit more time being, I think in these situations, it pays to be skeptical
Yeah.
than to just like say, okay, because the appeal is high,
Hmm.
it's exciting, but
Yeah.
it's not necessarily trustworthy until you've like explored that enough.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Okay, cool, awesome. Any other questions? Any other thoughts, comments, feelings, emotions?
Yeah. Can I ask? All right. So yeah, actually I wanted, it's a question which is not really about going international as a touring and all, but more about from my career's perspective. So like I've been releasing music from past 3 to 4 years independently and all. So
Yeah.
at which point you feel it's like you should now start looking out for someone who can do the basic stuff, like not the basic, but the managerial stuff or the marketing stuff out for you. Like अभी तक मैं सब independent कर रहा था. I like for 4 years I've been releasing. I got 5 lakh streams on my Spotify. One of the young, like all those some data to like I can quote ki I'm one of the youngest to get supported by Spotify through their playlist. And I've been doing my own community stuff too in my hometown and all. Like I've been organizing gigs here in Rice State, Gujarat. Mein, we are doing techno gigs all nighter,
Yeah, I
and doing
remember.
massive techno gigs, 300, 400 people techno gigs too.
Yeah.
So at which point now I should start being like now it's time I should focus on making better music and like people who are great at this do their stuff. So like either looking out for a great label deal or more like a manager who can take over, because label is not the only way around now at this point. It's not ki label hi label hai. You can start
Of course,
managing
it's
things.
not. It's a small closed group. Can I answer this in a way that is probably counterintuitive to what a manager should say? But
Yeah.
I think there's two aspects to this for me, and I don't know how many of you know this, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a personal example also. I'm not a musician, but I'm a dancer, and I have been uh, I've explored different shapes and forms of the industry over the years. I think for me, this is a two-step thing, right? With management, like I said earlier, in terms of like how we choose this, that, I would wait to find somebody who is invested in me, not just somebody who I want as a manager. Now that goes both ways. You have to also like trust this person.
True.
There's somebody in the Delhi market I know who started working with his best friend who knew nothing about management when he started out. And today they're a really formidable team. So explore what it means to have a manager and have a team, right? If you have the money, there are marketing agencies, there are content agencies, there are I don't know how many of you guys know Raghav, but I feel like that's an interesting way. Robak themselves do a lot of like interesting stuff at the intersection, which is not a traditional label deal. It's not a traditional straight up marketing thing. But like for example, I know First Wave does a deal where maybe you give up like a little bit of your royalty percentage in distribution, not in like they're not taking over and above, but they will help you build content in lieu of that investment. That means you don't even have to spend money on it, but like you're able to find somebody who says, hey, listen, I like this song, I'll help you distribute it, I'll help you build the content for it. Your focus is still the music. They are marketing, they're doing everything. Your focus will always be two things. It will be the music and it is your business, because at the end of the day, it is your business. Right? Nobody is going to care about it more than you will. So that from that perspective, you are the CEO. What you need now are the hands and legs, right? You need a CEO, a CFO, or whatever. And I think the minute you understand that structure, you realize that you're not actually saying, I want to free up all of my time. You're saying, I want to effectively manage a team that I can supervise. So my effort is different.
Yeah.
Right? I think for me, that's a better framework to look at, which then means that I don't necessarily always need a manager. I don't always need a label. I can pay somebody 10,000 rupees and have them make kick-ass content for me in today's world. And that kind of comes back to my point about your people. Where you are at in your career, can I find, I don't know how many of you guys know this, but Hanuman Kind has worked with the same videographer since day one. From a time when maybe he wasn't able to pay him as much to where he is today, where he's like, yeah, okay, like, fine, take your full fee from me. But that is something where do your business smartly. If you're looking for support, identify what are the 4 things that you need. You'll need to know those, whether or not you want management. Because if I come to you as a manager and I say, you come to me and we've kind of had this conversation, you come to me, say I want management, and I say,
yeah,
okay, but like as management, what do you expect me to do for you? You'll still need to know what are the core things that I want management to satisfy for me. Otherwise, you will always be unhappy with management, right? Because there's always 20 things that management could have done for you, right? But you have to start somewhere, right? You have to start. You could be playing Piano Man, and then tomorrow someone tells you, but you know, you could have been playing O2. And then you go to your manager and you'd be like, bro, why am I not playing O2? And that list it's insane. The things I'm getting 4 million views. Why am I not getting 28? Who the hell knows, right? But your wish list has to be catered to where you are right now as well. And I think in that idea of clarity of saying, I know what I want, I know what I need to get to where I want. Who do I need? Do I need a manager? Do I need a booking agent? Do I need a marketing manager? Do I need one person who I'll pay 20,000 rupees a month as fee and he'll just follow me around to make content the whole month? What is it that I need? Right? And I think a little bit of trial and error on that also now, of saying, okay, I thought what was holding me back is content. So I hired this content person. Didn't work. Like, that's not the problem. Okay, what is the problem? Is it my distribution? Is it not reaching the right places? Is it not reaching the right audience? I hired a marketing manager and I broadened my horizon and I said, okay, can you help me identify where I'm going wrong? Was it my overall strategy with how I was packaging, releasing? Then I need a manager, right? I think that identification can be played around with a lot. Management is one of those things where you have to also understand that, like, the way that the ecosystem operates right now, the ratio of artists to managers is horrible. It's so bad. I'm very serious, because when I'm telling you objectively, when I joined OML, people used to come to me and tell me, okay, I've done an MBA, why should I become a manager? And I was like, okay, but it's a business. It works the same way. The concepts of economics still apply. I still stand to make money. My whole product analogy for me still stands. So what is stopping me? But the number of people who came from like traditional workforces going into management was negligible. It was like sad. I studied at Ashoka and I went into my office and someone looked at me and said, "Why are you here?" And I said, "What? Why? What do you mean? Like, why should I not be here?"
It's more
They're like,
about the
"Oh, but you
interest side
studied like,"
too.
yeah, but they're like, "Oh, you studied like politics and philosophy and whatever. Why are you at like, why are you in?" I was like, "This is so weird. You're like, your problem with me is that I studied something smarter. Like, that's your problem with me, objectively." Which is stupid, right? Because I was like, then my workforce is actually not generating itself at the same pace because people don't think that you need that. People don't think you need money. It is only now, 8 years after I've been in the industry, that people are saying, yo, there's money to be made. You have a Zomato investing in events. You have like all of that is happening now. So you have more and more people who are paying attention to the live industry, to the arts industry. And it's a good time and place to be, but it's going to be a while before you can bridge the gap between managers and artists because that number is not even close. So 1:1 to chhod do. I'm saying 1:15 also is difficult. And 15 is a lot for a manager as bandwidth.
True.
So, till you find somebody who's willing to invest and willing to say, you know what, I want to bet my money on you, what are the things that you can solve for yourself? This is one thing that I've learned from Rahul also. He is much more inclined to bet on an artist who's done XYZ for themselves than to bet on somebody who comes to him and says, मैं बनूंगा. You may be the best artist in the world, but management is a 50-50 partnership. So there's many things that come into play. And so I'm just saying till you can do that and till you find the right person for you and don't rush into it.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
till you can do that, look at the same money जो तुम्हारा 15% royalty से तुम उनको देने वाले थे ना, save that 15% and say, can I direct it to another resource that I need? Can I put it into ads? Can I put it into marketing? Can I put it into press? Can I put it into distribution, content, whatever? There's a million things in this ecosystem, right? But play around with it a little bit till you find the right person or find a promoter.
Yeah. I was looking out for promoters too, and like moreover, I was inclined to do live shows too. But lately, jab se Bombay mein, it's very strict for the age thing, and currently I'm too young for them to let me play. Like till the month of October, November, I was doing like mahine ke 3-4 shows, and now I have no shows called age factor.
Dhruv, how old are you?
I'm 19. I'm 19. So in that time, I did set up all of my music business stuff. I had my publishing company. I got my own publishing company, which is sorting all the publishing royalties for me. Mera singer songwriters hai royalties ho gaya. So currently, I'm not giving a penny to anyone. I'm owning all of my rights. I got my artwork team ready. सब मैंने खुद से तो कर लिया. But अब shows नहीं है बजाने के लिए. That's real big.
You know, on this call, I just want to point out, at least in the faces I can see, there is one collective wave of like, क्या कर रहे हैं हम जिंदगी में? Including me. कि तुम not, the way you've gone through your list of things that you just done at 19 is hella impressive. And I think take a minute and be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. That's amazing. Also, कोई जल्दी नहीं है.
हाँ जल्दी तो नहीं है.
नहीं ये चीज, it's easy to say it, it's harder to internalize it. Even this idea of wanting to play XYZ shows, whatever, I will tell you one thing, enjoy being 19. I'm not joking. Even as an artist, your sound is going to change a lot in the years to come. Who you are as a person is going to change a lot. I'm not that old, contrary to popular opinion, but I'm still saying this. I don't think I spent enough time just enjoying where I was at 19 because I really wanted to be and do many things. And ये थोड़ा philosophical हो गया तो हम इस बात को छोड़ देंगे अभी के लिए. But I'm just
But you
saying
can.
honest. Sorry?
You can if you want.
No, but I think you understood my point. But I'm saying take 5 minutes to appreciate and give yourself the time to appreciate who you are as a musician at 19 also. That's one. to answer it more like seriously, I think if your only goal is live shows from that perspective, um, there are, see, if it's an age thing, that's not going to change in any market. You can
Yeah.
try reaching out to like promoters across the thing, but fortunately or unfortunately, like for example, the liquor laws are very strict in India, and the things that support electronic music, especially from a sponsorship perspective, a marketing perspective, is a liquor brand. So you're going to face this conflict a lot, right? Um, Having said that, I think one of the things you could do is reach out to promoters in different cities, because the liquor laws also differ. You'll find some promoters who are like, yeah, we won't give you a hospitality rider, but we'll give you an opportunity. Great.
Yeah.
Make the effort of going outside your comfort zone of Bombay, because Bombay is very strict right now. And I'm
Yeah,
not
it is. It is.
encouraging being like a younger
No,
artist.
no, no. I know. I've realized that.
I have to
I'm
protect
in
my
Pune, so even our live scene has been so badly affected. All the live gigs got like all of them
yours
got
was a very different reason.
it was really bad.
Yours is a very different reason.
That's true though.
Like I went to attend a show and they didn't let me. Like artist का manager मेरे को बुलाना है anti social के बाहर. Manager artist was my good friend. Artist का manager मेरे को बुलाना है. The guy at anti social is like नहीं तू 19 साल का है तू नहीं जा रहा.
Yeah. See, you'll have to also look for the right venues. If
Yeah,
you really
true.
want to play right now, I think a better bet is to look for like smaller festivals, because their rules may be different. An anti-social, like the rules are very strict right now,
Yeah.
right? So I would say experiment with promoters outside of your city. Look at maybe festivals, because they're a little bit more accepting of age demographics. But don't fixate too much on it, because this is something that is not your fault. This is also for you, it may be a great idea to start looking at smaller international markets in that case, because their age laws are non-existent.
Yeah, so like, cause currently even in my Spotify ka graph, India is my 5th or 7th number on an average. First is always your US, Europe, कोई countries रहती है. But currently, like accessibility was kind of an issue. So what I just changed my focus. From live, I changed it to growing more of my social identity and social brand. So the focus मैंने उसका change कर लिया था.
Yeah, and I still think like reach out to people, at least see what they say. And again, like earlier when I was talking the presentation also, maybe not a Europe right off the bat, but there
Yeah.
are smaller festivals that are happening globally. Thailand has Wonderfruit. There's something that I'm forgetting what it was called, but
There are
Southeast Asia has a huge market for electronic right now,
Yeah.
and their laws are very different. So maybe reach out to smaller festivals in these markets and see how you can play that circuit before you come back to India to play till you're 21 and above.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Sorry.
right.
Abhishek, you've had your hand
Thank
up.
you.
Yeah, just one last question. And it's more for, a point of view, the case study for everyone to learn from. There's this artist who in the English indie scene who's really come up very well. She's pretty young herself, and I follow her on Instagram, and on her, journey and everything. Her name is Frizzell D'Souza. Uh, have you, so I just wanted to ask your input on, how she's been able to do everything herself and really, really do well, because last year she performed in Hornbill Festival also and was also invited to play in NH7 Weekender. And for someone who's just like in the early 20s and released, say, one EP and album, the album is very good. It got an award in the Indian Music Diaries as one of the best EPs in that category. Uh, if you could just talk about, what she's been able to do right at such a young age in terms of, reaching out to promoters, her music, and the way she's able to market herself all by herself, because I know she's not signed to any artist management company or anything like that.
Are you sure she's not? Because her last post, one of her last posters has Misfits on it. I don't know if you can see this, but it has Misfits ka logo right here.
Which means she's signed to somebody?
It would appear to be the case that she collaboration is also Misfits. I don't know whether she signed, but it's possible that she has some association to them. whether that is booking or it is they manage Misfits. This is the Misfits link tree.
Yeah.
It says Misfits artists, and it has her.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know
Okay.
whether she was signed right from the beginning or not, but she is definitely signed to them. I think that could be a part of it, at
Yeah.
least from booking perspective. So yeah.
Got it. That mostly answers the question. I mean, answers
Yeah, that's what I was
a
like. I was like,
a huge part of the question.
yeah. Okay, awesome. Okay. I think we have gone way over time, but that's okay. But if no one has any other questions, I will. Yeah, what's up?
Yeah. So, related to the video thing. So first is like you guys like help with your artists with the video part. Like, do you guys provide services or like if they have a song, you guys decide or help them with the video? Or also the second thing is, do you guys go for any video PR agency or something? If you can name like production and marketing both.
Okay, production, I mean, do we help? Yes and no. We're not a production house, but I think as managers, you are very involved in the process, right? From like conceptualization to execution, finding the right people. I think that's just part of like our job, really. Obviously, different agencies have different models. OML has an in-house production house. Well, a production wing. I know Represent has a team that looks at content. So it really depends on the structure of the agency that you're working with. Marketing of video specifically, now you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think there are agencies, but we don't like. I would not know them off the top of my head because I don't think we've gone down that route as much. We know people we work with for press, etc. But like the approach that we have at the company is we reach out to a lot of these people ourselves till we have our glass ceiling moment, right? So, for example, with video, I think a really interesting thing that Instagram has done is pages that look at cool video content. They're not necessarily even related to music, but in fact, I think the Hanuman kind video got featured on a page. I'm forgetting what it's called. I think it's Eye Candy or something like that. It's a global page that really looks at like really cool music video content, right? I think he got featured there, which was an international recognition of how epic the video was. And I feel like identifying these offbeat channels of promotion for video is interesting. Marketing agency wise, you'll have the same thing. You'll have the metrics of like SEO, ads, campaigns, all of that. But I feel like if you can find agencies that operate at this middle ground of traditional and new age digital promotion, you're in a better place to do that. Again, I think and Drishti can probably correct me if she's still here, but I think Robak does a little bit of it. I know First Wave helps a little bit.
Yeah, I had conversation with Raghav. I sent him a song and he liked it. He said like right now we are like working on a few projects, but if you can wait, like we might do something together.
Yeah.
So I was asking it because like I've got few songs and I need video production, and then I might
what you could also do is talk to Raghav and tell him that maybe if you don't want the production aspect of it, and you're looking at the marketing aspect of it, I think one other thing that Raghav does is work out like a marketing package for you, which essentially means that will help you do the outreach, the maybe some content creation if you want it, and then playlisting, etc. And it gets featured on their like First Wave pages and stuff. So maybe explore the variety of plans that he also has, because I know he's very like music centric. From a production standpoint, I really think that a lot of the larger agencies, exactly, that's what I was saying. Drishti does help with marketing.
Okay.
And in fact, both Rohan and her will be epic people to speak to about this. Thanks for clarifying, Drishti.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think these are like two agencies that I know are good people to work with. I haven't really worked closely with anyone else, so I would be alright to like send you that reference. From a production perspective, I think again, depending on where you're at, some of the larger agencies will charge a lot to produce a music video, which is why I think initially I really encourage people to go guerrilla a little bit, find somebody to like shoot for you. In fact, I was having a conversation with an artist this morning where we came up with an idea for a music video that we want to do. We're literally doing this like old school because it's not like he has a lot of budget for it. Um, we're picking a room in a friend's house. We have the concept. It's not very like production heavy. I found a video. I've literally found like 5 people who really like the song because it's a very like emotional song, and they've just said, "Whatever you do, I want to do it."
Okay,
Because
they're
that's
gonna
how
act.
they like the song.
Okay.
And I think people like that still exist in the world. So while you're building up for it, like especially for visual content, I would suggest going like low key, finding people who like your vibe. Spend on the equipment, spend on cameras, lighting, all of that, because that's what makes it look more professional. But in terms of teams, maybe you can find people who really want to collaborate on something as well, or you can pay them like token fees to honor, like find that network of people who are also at the same level that you are at and who want to experiment. So I think play around with that a little bit. Production, otherwise, I mean, I'm happy to recommend production houses, but I feel like the budgets scare me sometimes. So maybe maybe you want to mix people, like we signed Sangeeta recently, and for her, one of her music videos also, what we did was we found someone experienced and everyone was paid, but that budget was kept under a certain number. We had like the option to work backwards. There were 2 artists on it, so it broke the costs a little bit. um you can do that. You can pay someone for their, like, let's say, get an experienced director, and then like ask friends to be a part of your video, ask whatever. Like that's also a cool way to do it because it's very
Yep.
personal then.
Yep.
But then if you're getting someone really experienced, like try and compensate them a little bit at least, right? Like find a good director, a good equipment. Those are the two, and like a great DOP. Those are the 3 things that will make or break your video, in my opinion, right? If you found a good director and you have a story and you have whatever, half your battle is won. um Marketing is something that I think you should definitely look at, because that is a big thing, and I would definitely suggest like hitting up Drishti Rohan after this, and then
For sure.
yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. And also, I'll send you a mail, and maybe in the subject, like I'll mention this this thing, so you identify me. Thank you so much, man. Like,
Not at all. I hope this has been helpful, and thank you guys for sticking
Meher,
around till the end.
sorry, just one last thing, Meher. Sorry to interrupt you. Just
No,
one
no,
last
go for
thing.
it.
I'm
Go
trying
for
to
it.
shoot my first music video
Yeah.
using the same modus operandi you mentioned, using my friends, using a good director.
Yeah.
Can I manage with a smartphone, because the stuff for the real equipment comes very expensive actually. That's the only concern. Can you use a good smartphone like an iPhone smartphone to shoot the video?
I'm sure you can. I think again there are a lot of variables to this. What is the concept? Where are you shooting? Do you have lighting? What iPhone model you're using, right? Like for example, I have the 14, but I don't know if I would shoot a full length music video on it. But if I had like the Pro, maybe I would.
Okay.
Like, I mean, again, but I'm not a director. I'm not a DOP. I don't understand cameras. And so maybe I am doing something wrong. I'm fully like willing to accept that, which is why I said maybe identify the best DOP in your circle, right? If you can find someone who operates on cameras and actually is able to give you that perspective, that would be a better bet than asking me that question, because I personally feel like just the quality I get on a camera is a little different. But I could be completely wrong because I have a friend and he shoots beautiful things on iPhones also. I know I couldn't do it, right? So I think when I look at a full length music, also it depends on the form, like what it is that you're trying to shoot, and it will depend on concept. I'm sure you can shoot it, but let's say I want to shoot something at night. My iPhone is terrible at night, even on night mode. Then if I have lighting, it changes the game a little bit, right? So I would look at the concept a little bit, but I'm sure it's possible. I just don't know the mechanics of it.
Thanks.
Sorry about the ambiguous answer over there.
No, it's cool. Thanks.
Okay. Dhruv, you wanted to say something? I saw a hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to his question, Abhishek's questions.
Yeah. Good.
So like I have a friend of mine who does this videography and all, and he recently did a video for Genie.
Yeah.
And the one Sheher, kaun sa song I don't remember, so sorry. But the one which got featured on Times Square and all too. So he did the videography and he's a
Chocolate.
sorry?
Chocolate.
Yeah, I don't remember the name, sorry. So so
I lost your voice, Dhruv.
yeah, is it audible now? Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so he did some shoots on iPhone too. He just used an app called Blackmagic camera. It gives you a great access to all the controls on the iPhone itself.
Oh,
So
cool.
you can use that on your iPhone. Like,
Thank you so much, Dhruv.
yeah, welcome. Like the pro models or even the base models like 13, 14 has great way you can convert it and you can, change the settings and all through that app. So you can try using that.
Awesome. Anyone else has anything you want to say? Okay, awesome. I think we're good. If there's anything else, you guys can always shoot an email. My email is on the chat box. Thank you guys for sticking around. I know it's been a long hour and a half, but you guys have been fun. And I look forward to seeing what you guys come up with. Thank you to Robak and Drishti and for organizing this and having me. And
Thank you for being a part of this too.
thank you. Amazing. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have
Thank
a
you for
Thank you.
giving your time. Thank you for
See you.
giving your time.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank
so much.
Thank
Not
you.
at
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
Bye.
you.
Good night. Bye.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.